Have you ever tried so hard to become peaceful that the effort itself became another kind of suffering? You meditate so you can improve. You read spiritual books so you can become wiser. You help other people so you can become good. On the surface, all of this sounds noble. But Zen asks a sharper question: who is the one trying to improve, and what exactly is missing right now? In Gateless Gate Case 4, Master Huoan gives us a question that quietly removes the ground from under our feet. He says, Buddha and all beings are not two. Then why does Buddha save sentient beings? At first, it sounds like a puzzle. If Buddha and ordinary beings are one reality, why would there be anyone to rescue? If there is no separation, why compassion? If there is already wholeness, why practice? This koan is not asking for a clever answer. It is asking you to notice the hidden split in your own mind. The part of you that feels broken, and the part of you that wants to become enlightened, are both movements inside awareness. Tonight, we are going to sit with that split. Not to solve it, but to see through it. The Gateless Gate is a collection of 48 Zen cases compiled by Wumen Huikai in 13th century China. The title itself is a warning. There is a gate, but it has no door. There is a path, but nothing can be carried through it. You cannot bring your opinions, your spiritual resume, your favorite identity, or even your most beautiful idea of enlightenment. The cases are short because they are not meant to explain Zen. They are meant to expose the place where explanation fails. Huoan's case belongs to this tradition. It touches one of the deepest Buddhist teachings, non-duality. Non-duality does not mean everything is the same in a flat or careless way. It means the separation we usually trust is not ultimate. The wave is not separate from the ocean, even though it rises and falls as a wave. The hand is not separate from the body, even though one finger can touch another. In the same way, the awakened one and the suffering being are not two separate substances. But this does not make suffering imaginary in daily life. A person still grieves. A mind still fears. A child still cries. Zen refuses to choose between absolute truth and ordinary compassion. It asks us to see both at once. From the absolute view, nothing is missing. From the human view, the heart responds. Here is the case in its simple form. Master Huoan said, Buddha and all beings are one. Why does Buddha save sentient beings? That is all. No long sermon. No explanation. Just a question placed in the mind like a small stone dropped into a clear bowl of water. The ripples begin immediately. If Buddha and beings are one, then saving seems unnecessary. If saving is necessary, then oneness seems incomplete. The thinking mind wants to repair the contradiction. Zen lets the contradiction work on us instead. The phrase Buddha and all beings are one can be misunderstood. It is not saying that your confusion is secretly perfect in a way that requires no honesty. It is not saying that pain should be ignored. It is pointing to a level of seeing deeper than the usual story of me here and life over there. When you dream at night, the frightened person, the road, the storm, and the one who runs are all made of the same dreaming mind. Inside the dream, the fear feels real. After waking, you see that the whole scene was one display. Zen uses this kind of waking as a living metaphor. The Buddha saves beings the way waking saves the dreamer. Yet when waking happens, you cannot find a separate rescuer standing outside the dream. Compassion moves, but no fixed self owns it. Help is given, but the giver is empty. Relief comes, but the one who needed relief is not as solid as imagined. Huoan's question is powerful because it catches the ego trying to own both sides. The ego wants to be the poor suffering being who must be rescued, or the noble spiritual person who rescues others. Zen asks us to release both roles. What remains is not indifference. What remains is a compassion without performance. A young monk once came to his teacher after many months of difficult practice. He bowed and said, "Master, I am trying to save myself from anger. I sit every morning, but anger still comes. I chant, but resentment still comes. I help in the kitchen, but pride still comes. What more should I do?" The teacher asked him to bring a bowl of water. The monk returned with the bowl, holding it carefully with both hands. The teacher pointed to the surface and asked, "Is the moon in the bowl?" The monk looked down. The evening moon was reflected clearly in the water. "Yes, master," he said. Then the teacher tapped the bowl. The water trembled, and the moon broke into silver fragments. The monk said, "Now the moon is gone." The teacher smiled and asked, "Did the moon leave the sky, or did the water simply move?" The monk was silent. The teacher said, "Your anger is moving water. Your pride is moving water. Your fear is moving water. You keep trying to save the reflection. Practice is learning to look up." The monk stood there for a long time. He had been treating every ripple as proof that he was not Buddha. He had been trying to polish the reflection until it became the moon. That night, when anger came again, he did not declare war on it. He felt the heat in his chest. He felt the old story wanting to rise. Then he looked up within himself. There was awareness before anger, during anger, and after anger. The anger moved. The sky did not. This is the heart of the koan. We confuse the ripples with the sky. We confuse the changing mind with the nature that knows change. Because of that confusion, spiritual life becomes another project of self-improvement. We say, "I must become calm. I must become wise. I must become compassionate." But the one who makes those demands is often the same anxious identity that created the tension in the first place. Zen practice does not tell us to become passive. It teaches us to look more precisely. When anger appears, there is anger. When kindness appears, there is kindness. When confusion appears, there is confusion. But is there a fixed owner behind all of it? If you search honestly, you find sensations, memories, habits, language, and reactions. You find a stream. You do not find a separate solid self standing outside the stream. This is why Buddha and beings are not two. The suffering being is not a permanent object. The Buddha is not a separate superhero. Awakening is the clear seeing of this whole movement. Then why does Buddha save sentient beings? Because when separation relaxes, care becomes natural. Your left hand does not need a philosophy before it pulls a thorn from your right hand. It simply responds. It does not think, "I am generous." It does not ask, "What will I gain?" The body is one, so help is spontaneous. In the same way, when the heart sees deeply, compassion stops being a performance. You help because the boundary is thinner than you thought. You listen because another person's pain is not entirely other. You forgive because clinging to hatred begins to feel like gripping a burning coal. This is not an idea to admire. It is something to test in the smallest moments of daily life. Another subtle point matters here. Non-duality is not a belief that makes life fade. It is a discipline of attention. If you only repeat, "Everything is one," you may use the teaching to avoid responsibility. But Huoan does not allow that escape. He places oneness beside saving. The two must be held together. In meditation, this means you do not reject the messy human material. You let fear be known. You let sadness be known. You let desire be known. But you stop building a throne for the one who owns them. Little by little, the sense of a separate controller becomes transparent. What remains is not a blank emptiness, but a responsive clarity. It is quiet, but it is not cold. There is another way to feel this teaching. Imagine walking through a busy station. Everyone is moving quickly. Someone bumps into you and spills coffee on your sleeve. The old mind reacts instantly. How rude. Why me? People are careless. In 1 second, the world divides into two teams, me, the innocent person, and them, the problem. Now imagine pausing for just one breath. You notice the tightness in your jaw. You notice the story forming. You also notice the other person's face. They look exhausted. Maybe they are late. Maybe they are caring for someone sick. Maybe they are simply lost in the same restless fog that visits you. Nothing mystical has happened. You still have coffee on your sleeve. But the hard wall softens. You can say, "It is okay," with real ease instead of forced politeness. This is Buddha saving beings in ordinary clothes. It is not dramatic. No halo appears. No temple bell rings. The saving is the interruption of separation. One breath saves you from becoming your anger. One moment of seeing saves the other person from becoming your enemy. The world is not repaired forever, but something unnecessary has ended. Zen is full of these small endings. The end of defending a self-image. The end of rehearsing an old complaint. The end of believing every thought that appears. Each ending is a tiny gate with no door. You step through by not carrying the old burden one more inch. The same practice can happen online, in family life, or at work. A message arrives, and before you read it carefully, the body tightens. You imagine criticism. You prepare a defense. You write a reply in your head before the other person has finished speaking. At that instant, the old gate appears. You can walk through as the defended self, or you can pause. Read again. Feel the feet. Let the breath lengthen. Often the problem becomes smaller. Sometimes you still need to set a boundary. Sometimes you still need to speak firmly. But firmness without hatred has a different quality. It does not poison the one who speaks. So how do we practice this koan today? Begin with the moment you feel most separate. It may be conflict with another person. It may be shame about your own past. It may be the private belief that everyone else understands life and you are somehow behind. When that feeling appears, do not rush to replace it with a positive thought. Instead, ask quietly, what is actually here? Feel the body. Name the sensation simply, tightness, heat, pressure, trembling, heaviness. Then notice the awareness that knows the sensation. The sensation changes, but awareness is already present. You do not need to manufacture it. This is the first doorway. The second doorway is compassion without ownership. Do one helpful thing without making an identity out of it. Listen without preparing your wisdom. Apologize without defending your image. Give attention without secretly asking to be praised. In these actions, you may taste what Huoan is pointing toward. Help happens, but the helper becomes lighter. Practice happens, but the practitioner becomes less rigid. Even meditation can be approached this way. Sit down not to become Buddha, but because sitting is an expression of the Buddha nature already moving in you. Breathe not to escape your life, but to meet it. Let thoughts rise and fall without turning each one into a personal biography. If the mind says, "I am not doing this well," bow to that thought and let it pass. The moon is still in the sky. The water is simply moving. A useful daily exercise is the 3-breath practice. On the first breath, recognize, this is suffering, stress, or confusion. On the second breath, soften the owner, this is a passing condition, not my permanent identity. On the third breath, respond, what is the kindest useful action available now? This practice is small enough to use anywhere. You can use it before opening an email, before answering a child, before stepping into a meeting, or before returning to meditation after distraction. The point is not to become special. The point is to become less trapped. Each time you do this, Buddha saves beings through the ordinary doorway of attention. Golden quote, when separation relaxes, compassion no longer needs a reason. The hand helps the hand because the body is one. Gateless Gate Case 4 does not give us a doctrine to memorize. It gives us a mirror. In that mirror, we see how often we divide life into the one who needs saving and the one who might someday be saved. We see how often we turn awakening into a distant achievement. Huoan's question brings us back. Buddha and beings are not two. This does not erase human pain. It makes compassion more intimate. The next time you feel lost, do not ask only, how can I become someone better? Ask also, what if the one who is searching is already held inside a wider awareness? What if practice is not a ladder away from yourself, but a way of seeing yourself clearly? Let the question stay open. Let it breathe. ZenMind EP 004. Ancient koans. Quiet wisdom. A clearer mind. If this koan stays with you, let it work slowly. Do not hurry to decide what it means. Carry it into one difficult conversation. Carry it into one moment of loneliness. Carry it into one breath before sleep. Ask, where am I making to where life is asking me to see one? And where am I using oneness to avoid a compassionate response? Between those two questions, the path opens. It is quiet, direct, and very close.